Tonight, we are continuing our spooky season vibes with the 1999 Gothic fable, Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah, Sleepy Hollow takes place in 1799. It is based on Washington Irving's classic tale, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. It focuses around a character, Ichabod Crane, played by Johnny Depp, and he is sent to investigate a series of mysterious decapitations.
Oh my god.
So yeah.
Neither of you had seen this movie before we watched it for the show.
Yeah, you could say we slept on Sleepy Hollow.
You slept on Sleepy Hollow. So I saw this in 4th grade, I remember, because I went to it for my birthday party. Ooh. And it was, for a very short time, my favorite movie of all time.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's fair.
It is like prime Tim Burton and Johnny Depp and Christina Ricci.
Yeah.
And then everyone else, too. It has everybody in this.
Christopher Lee.
All-star cast. This feels like one of the most Tim Burton movies I've ever seen.
Really?
Yeah, in the sense that it is extremely like ethereal, otherworldly, dreary and gray, almost like black and white.
Going on.
Yeah, with like splashes of color. The blood is almost comically red.
Mm-hmm.
It was like that with Sweeney Todd, where it's gets the point across. It's gory, but it's not in a realistic way. It's not in a too camp way either. It's like a perfect, mixture of the two.
That blood that you're talking about in a lot of other films presented that way would look cheesy or hokey, but it really doesn't at all in this movie. I agree with that a lot, actually.
And with the Tim Burtonisms, I think it's more like a Johnny Deppism, like where he throws those little like funny notes, like, oh, like, come on, horsey, let's go. And those are funny. I love those little moments, but it didn't take away from the seriousness of the movie either.
Yeah, because it could be a very like dreary, kind of depressing movie, but it does have like that Tim Burton whimsical humor throughout it too.
Yeah.
On the topic of decapitations, I love that you see almost every single decapitation in this movie.
Yeah.
It earns its R rating.
Yeah, I was not prepared for the gore and gruesomeness that I did see. There was one of the beheadings where then I think it's Ichabod is examining the head, and we actually get a close-up of the severed neck, and there's like a bug crawling out of something, and I was just like, wow, I can't think of another movie where we've seen something like that.
Not a Tim Burton movie.
Well, no, definitely not. But even just, I don't know. I'm sure that one exists somewhere. There's a lot of horror movies, but I thought that was like a unique take on it, and it was delightfully gory.
It was. I feel like if this movie was made any time after when it was made, it would have been a PG-13 movie.
Yeah.
I feel like Burton, Depp, Ricci, and studio interference would have just had them be like, we can make more money if this is PG-13. I love that it was made when it was, and it was just like fucking cut off them heads.
Yeah.
And every decapitation was unique. Like one of them spun like a top.
Speaking of Headless Horseman, Christopher Walken is wilding out there.
Okay, yeah.
Are
we getting into Walken right now?
Yeah,
I don't know.
More cowbell. Let's go.
Yes.
Oh, God. I don't love those teeth.
You don't?
No?
No. I mean, I've seen like filed teeth on characters before where I was like, dang, do I need to file my teeth? But not when I see his. That was creepy, okay?
You don't like unhinged Walken?
Oh, has there ever been a hinged Walken?
I like unhinged Walken with unfiled teeth.
On the topic of Walken, I think the Headless Horseman in this is a fucking badass. Like, I loved every scene that the Horseman was in. He was like almost like a machine. And he essentially is. He's controlled by a witch, as we find out. But he is so formidable in this, and he looks so cool with that ragged cloak and that angry steed, and every time he draws a weapon, he whips it around and does like some sword play.
And a lot of that was CGI, but it's well-aged CGI, and because they used, I feel like they used practical effects, or I could be wrong.
Where they could.
And then they used the CGI to help, which is what you're supposed to do.
There are a couple elements in this where I feel like the CGI did not age well, and we can... the crone in the woods, where she flips up her veil and has like her little snaky surprise.
Yeah.
Where I saw that and I was like, can you imagine You've all seen Pee Wee Herman, right?
Oh, Marge.
Can you imagine if they
Marge.
did that in the vein of Large Marge with like claymation stop motion? Because anyone that saw that as a kid, that has stuck with them and traumatized them well into adulthood.
I've got some comments on costuming.
Okay, yes.
I love a great period piece. You guys have probably heard me say that 1 or 1,000 times. And this actually takes place in my favorite time period, the late 1700s. The fashion was so exquisite. And unfortunately, it seems like a lot of movies, when they have to create this whole other world and make everything fit the time period, a lot of times the costumes suffer. I did not feel that to be true in this. I did an entire watch through just looking at cording and buttons and embroidery and details on dresses. It was wild. And honestly, just don't even get me started on Christina Ricci's black and white striped dress. I need it. Give me.
One of the big themes of this, where it's like kind of sense and reason and scientific investigation versus supernatural. And I really like that because for the most part, he is a very direct by the book guy, to the point where like in New York, his police compadres are sick of him. And they basically just like send him to Sleepy Hollow to get away, to get him out of there, get him out of their hair. And then he gets to this place, which is very much like a supernaturally governed small village, where they're like, it's the Headless Horseman.
Yeah.
He's like, no, it can't be, but they're like, yeah, but it is. It's totally the Headless Horseman.
He's like, no, I thought you all were seriously crazy.
Right? It's like, maybe I'm the crazy one.
Yeah.
He's feeling like the crazy one.
He's like, there's a Headless Horseman out here. Have you guys seen this Headless Horseman? They're like, yeah,
yeah,
we know.
Because prior to that, there's little hints where like the Holy Bible was like, this is the only book you need to read. And then Katrina hands him the spell book that ultimately saves his life. But like it makes him question his logic and reason, his scientific ways, which I think were very much cast aside when he was a child due to what happened to his mother.
So what is this sexy witch mom doing with that puritanical, horrible zealot father? How did that match get made?
I don't understand it. It's kind of funny. I mean, how often do our parents try to raise us to be a certain way, and then we become the opposite of what they want us to be? And this is kind of like, he kind of has that classic case where it's like, you know, so if his mom is like this supernatural witch of some sort, or maybe not even supernatural, but
She floats.
Yeah, he in turn becomes this extremely scientific person who measures and makes notes and does everything by the book. It's just kind of interesting how our parents shape who we are.
The thing with his hands, they noted, I think that was from when his mother was murdered. He put his hands
On a torture chair.
on the torture chair, and
His dad just had it hanging around the house. It was like their lazy boy.
was he trying to save his mother, or did he just?
I think he was just caught aghast and
yeah.
leaned into it.
Oh, because his mother came out, which.
Out of the Iron Maiden.
Yeah.
People were fucked up back then. Can you imagine an Iron Maiden?
I have imagined it.
And?
No thanks.
No good? All right. Nah. Maybe in 10 years. Speaking of 10 years, I thought it was interesting that a 10-year-old girl immediately on the spot offered her soul to Satan.
Yeah. What was that? What? She's just like, this guy got murdered in front of me. Satan, have my soul. Why?
I want to control this guy.
I mean, this is why 8-year-olds shouldn't be allowed to make important life decisions.
She was 10.
That
Big
changes everything.
Right.
That changes everything.
2 years of life experience. I also, kind of a weird scene transition that caught me as very funny. When Ichabod encounters the two people fornicating in the woods.
Oh, yeah.
He is shocked and he's taken aback by it. And then he has to get on his horse and ride all the way back to the cottage that he's at. But we cut to him walking in the cottage and he still like has his hand on his heart and his mouth open as if he's still reeling from what he just saw. It's like,
he must have been a sheltered
He
man.
was a
Ichabod,
precious little
it's
being.
Precious little bean.
was a
He had his
precious bean.
science kit. You
it
know,
had to
like,
take you
his
like an
little
hour
glasses.
to ride back to that house and he is still shook.
Can we talk about the fact that some guys pranked the constable by throwing flaming jack-o'-lanterns at his head. They hit him in the head, knocked him on the ground.
They didn't have cell phones back then. This is how they had to spend their time.
But just, I mean, can you imagine if you or I are Mary,
Got hit with
set
a
a pumpkin on fire, and then we threw it at somebody's face? That's like a lot of jail. A lot of jail.
You're going to wind up in a torture chair.
Yeah, let alone at a constable. But these people are like, this is Sleepy Hollow. Screw it.
We throw pumpkins here.
Fuck
His
this
face
guy.
probably-
That was like low-key one of the more terrifying moments. I'm like, oh God.
That was the scariest part of the entire movie,
so
actually.
bad.
I did like that was essentially kind of like a semi-adaptation of the original story to The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Like that was kind of an
the pumpkin
encapsulation
head.
of that. And like
Yeah.
maybe it was Brom Bones that did it all to him. It's like, okay, we got that in there, but we're doing a different thing on this too.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts on Sleepy Hollow? Or any Hollow?
Give me that black and white dress, man.
I personally really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the cast. I was just constantly pointing out people that have seen like Michael Gambon, and I understand now why people love it. It's like, Mary, you should watch it. You'll love it. It's like, I know now. I know now.
All right, so that was Sleepy Hollow.
Next week we are reviewing
Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
Ooh.
A modern Halloween classic. Or trash.
Get your stories ready.
We'll decide.
I feel like it has the aesthetic. It has everything that you would want out of a good
It does, but
atmospheric Halloween movie.
I don't think I would personally add it to my Halloween collection. I would add it to my general like goth collection, which
yeah.
is seasonal monthly. So
Okay, so it might get more rotation that
yeah,
way.
maybe. Yeah.
All right.